Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of the Becoming Her podcast. I'm your host, Altheresa Clark, and I'm so excited to chat with you all today. First, let me say thank you for those who listened to our latest episode. It was a lot for me to be vulnerable in that episode, so I thank you all for listening, your kind words, your feedback. I appreciate it. We are on episode 4. And just to kind of do a check in since our last podcast, things have been okay. Just traditional day to day things, work, family, um, hanging out with friends and loved ones. Nothing, significant that has happened since our most recent podcast episode. The kids are about to go back to school in a few weeks, so summer camp is ending and they have a little break before school starts. So, us parents are excited about that. Because I don't know about you all who have kids, but I have 2 boys and they are eating me out of house and home. So, um, and they're excited as well to get back to their friends and other activities, so we're all excited. So I'm about to start back to school shopping, well, finishing back to school shopping, just have some little bit of things to get. um so yeah, so that's what I've been working on in the past week to kind of do a check-in with you all. This week I wanted to talk about something that has come up for me in conversations that I've been having with friends, um, because I had a couple of friends who are in the transition of their careers or um, in their business, and oftentimes I find myself encouraging others. And when this came up, I thought about my own journey and my own experience. And so I wanted to share this with you all. So today's episode, we're going to talk about a few things, but the primary um, premise of this episode is stop auditioning for your calling. Stop auditioning for your calling. If this is your first time listening, welcome, welcome. If you will have been listening before to our episodes, welcome back. Um, I always like to start out with how the topic connects to me. And then also, I ask you all questions to kind of engage you all and get you all to think outside of yourself, because the idea of this podcast is to be reflective, for you all to reflect and ask yourself questions and to do the work. Some episodes I have done the work, I'm on the other side, while other episodes you will see that I am still navigating life. Um, and so I want to start with this question. What if the only thing standing between you and your next level is the permission you've been waiting for from someone else? Now, pause and really think about that. What do I mean? How many times have you convinced yourself that you're almost ready? I need to get more certifications. I need to get more degrees. I need to lose more weight. I need more money. I need more followers. I need more confidence. Um, I need people to believe in me first. And you're waiting for validation, or you're waiting for something, not realizing that everything you need is inside of you. Maybe you're waiting for a supervisor to promote you. Maybe you're waiting for your spouse to support you, your family and friends to support you. Maybe you are just wondering, do I have it? Will people like me? Will people listen to what I have to say? And the answer is two things. It doesn't matter. And yes, just do it. I have been in a journey of being an entrepreneur now for 10 years. And in the beginning of my journey, I struggled with this a lot. I struggled with the thought of, what if I don't have people to support me? What if no one signs up for my class, or no one signs up for my services? My very first event, I shared this on social media, I think last year, but my very first event, I had no one there outside of my aunt. I had marketed this event. This was in I want to say 2016, 2017. So about 10 years ago, my first event, I had just launched my practice. At the time, it was just me. It was a solo practice. And I had my first event. It was personal transformation workshop. It was a workshop, for those who want to transform their lives and those who want to do better, and giving you tips and tools to better your life. And I'm so excited. I had marketing on social media. I sent email blasts. I shared with family and friends. I was so excited. Actually, sorry, it was my aunt and my best friend there. It was two people. Let's say it started at 1 o'clock, get there at 12, set up. At the time, I was renting an office space from a colleague of mine because I didn't have my own office. And, she had let me come in on a Saturday to rent it to do this event. I was so excited. 1 o'clock comes, the event's supposed to start. I had food, decorations. Okay. Black people are late. So I'm just like, okay, they'll be late. 1:30, 2 o'clock comes, and I'm like, there's nobody here. I was devastated because I had already had preconceived thoughts of what if no one shows up. And to this day, that thought runs through my mind. And I tell my best friend all the time. And she's like, girl, I don't know why you still have that thought, because people show up to your events. And I say, well, there was a time where no one showed up outside of you and maybe someone else, right? And so I was so discouraged. I said, well, let's just pack up. I wasted, money for decorations and food, and let's pack up. And then I don't know if it was my aunt or my best friend said, still do the workshop. And I'm thinking, I'm going to do the workshop with just you two here in the room. They were like, yeah. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to get on Facebook Live, show myself doing this workshop. No one else knows that it's only you two here. And I'm going to present this workshop on Facebook Live. And I did. I think it was maybe 30, 45 minutes of a workshop, but no one would have known that it was just me and my aunt and my best friend there, because they couldn't see the audience. So for me, it was, presenting as if I had a room full of people, but no one was there outside of, my best friend and my aunt. No outside people were there. And I had sold tickets. Actually, no, I'm sorry. It was free. It was a free event. I didn't have a sign up, back then I didn't have an Eventbrite or something like that. Just show up. No one showed up. But I presented as if I had a room full of people. And I didn't know what that moment was doing for me, because even after I presented, I felt devastated. I felt like a failure. I went home and I might have cried at home. I'm not a big crier, so I don't remember, but I remember this overwhelming feeling of failure. And from that moment, I said, I'm not doing another event. And a couple years passed before I did my next event. So that was in 2016. The next event I did was 2019. So 3 years had passed before I did my next event. But I opened up with that story to tell you all that sometimes you just got to do it. Not everything is going to work out the way you expect it to, and that's okay. Sometimes you are going to have to step out on fear, step out on faith. You're going to have to step outside of your comfort zone, and you're going to have to just do it. And so somewhere along the way, discouragement set in, and I had stopped pursuing something that I love to do, which was public speaking. I stopped doing it. And so the first thing I want to share with you all is the difference between preparation and procrastination. So I have procrastinated a lot over my life. I like to call myself a recovered procrastinator. I believe preparation is important. I think God prepares us. I think life prepares us. I think experiences prepare us. But there comes a moment where preparation quietly turns into procrastination. And that is a dangerous place to be in because fear sets in. And once fear sets in, fear has you thinking, oh, I'm just waiting. I'm being responsible. I'm doing more research. I'm praying about it. I'm waiting till I perfect that thing, or I'm waiting till something happens. And it all sounds wonderful, but at the core of it is fear and then procrastination. And so fear has a way of making us believe that if we wait long enough, eventually we'll feel prepared enough. Eventually we will be ready. And the truth is that you will probably never feel 100% comfortable or ready when you are preparing to step out in your purpose or to do something that you have been called to do. And there have been different chapters of my life where, whether it was building my practice, speaking, leading, my multiple businesses or opportunities where I did not feel qualified. When I first launched my business, I did not feel qualified. I didn't really know what I was doing at the time. 10 years ago, it wasn't as popular as it is to have a practice. So I didn't know what I was doing. And there were moments where I wondered, am I doing the right thing? Is this going to work? Who's going to show up? Am I going to get clients? Like, you know, I launched my business in 2016 and it was a slow burn to get clients. And in 2018, I was on the verge of closing down my practice because it was not growing. I was like, it's 2 years in, it's not growing. I'm not getting, opportunities that I thought I would get. I had a handful of speaking engagements, whether it was through church or friends that had connections. I wasn't getting paid, it was free. And I had this whole vision of launching Inspire for Purpose, thinking, I'm going to be speaking and I'm going to have a plethora of clients. In a couple of years, I'll leave my 9 to 5 and be a full-time entrepreneur, and I'll have freedom and sit on the beach drinking margaritas. And I had all these visions and goals of what I thought my purpose was and what my path was going to look like. But there's that saying that we heard, you make plans and God laughs. It is true, right? I was walking in what I thought my purpose was and what I thought I should be doing. And I had not really consulted with God to get guidance on the pathway that I should take. And there was my first problem. I was just doing what I thought I should do. I was doing what I wanted to do, not knowing that what I wanted to do should have aligned with what God's purpose was for me. But I didn't know that. There was a disconnect. And so first thing I want you to realize is that preparation can lead to procrastination if you allow it to, and there is a difference. There's a difference between preparing and procrastinating, and that is when fear shows up and you have to step outside of fear. The second thing that I want you all to know is that sometimes you are not applying for something God already gave you. Imagine walking in your house, knocking on your own front door, asking for permission to come inside. Doesn't that sound crazy? That sounds wild, right? That's exactly what so many of us are doing spiritually. We're asking for permission to walk into rooms God already prepared you to walk in, sis. We're waiting for people to validate the gifts that God has already placed inside of us. And the truth is that people can recognize your calling, they can support your calling, they can celebrate your calling, but they don't determine your calling. Only God does. If your confidence is built on applause, you'll stop moving when the applause stops. When your confidence is built on purpose, you'll keep walking even when nobody claps, even when nobody supports you. When I first started my practice, my business, I'll never forget. I had asked all of my friends and family to be on my board, so to speak. I asked someone to be a social media person, an outreach person, a secretary. Like, I had asked all my closest friends and family to be in my business. This was in 2016. And I had a meeting, I'll never forget, at the Cheesecake Factory. It's been 10 years. And at that meeting was my best friend and my brother. And I sat there so defeated. I'm just like, nobody supports me. Nobody shows up for me. Nobody is doing this. Nobody is doing that. And my brother said, who cares? Do it anyways. If they're not showing up, why is that going to stop you from running this business? Find other people to do it or do it yourself. And when he said that, it sat with me and it was like a light bulb went off. I said, you know what? He's right. Why am I waiting for people to validate this dream, this vision, this purpose that God has given me? Why am I allowing other people to dictate how far I'm going to go, what I'm going to do, feeling like I'm defeated and I can't move forward in this dream? And a light bulb went off. And I opened up my practice. I said, I love you to my friends and family, but I didn't work with any of them. It was just me. And from 2016 to 2020, it was just me. I hired my first staff right before the pandemic. So I think January 2020, I hired a secretary as an assistant, and then it just grew from there. But for the first 3 years, it was just me. I was doing social media. I was doing outreach. I was doing marketing. I was scheduling clients. I was doing the billing. I was everything in my practice for the first 3 years. And those first 3 years were rough, very rough and slow. And like I said, there was a point that I wanted to quit and I wanted to give up. And I realized that I shouldn't allow other people to dictate this dream that I have, this vision that God has given to me. And so after that conversation, I kept going. In 2018, when I was thinking of closing my practice down, I had a coach at the time. And I sat with my coach and I told her, you know, I had this dream of writing a book. I had all these dreams and I felt like a loser at the time. I did. And I think I even told her that I felt like a loser. I felt like a failure. And she said, I'm paraphrasing, you know, I wish you could see you the way I see you. I wish that you could walk as the bad that I know you to be. You are that girl, but you don't even realize it. And I cried. One, I was angry because she was calling me out on my stuff and I was in denial. And I got emotional because the fact of the matter is what she was saying was true. I wasn't seeing myself the way God saw me. I wasn't seeing myself for the amazing, talented, wonderful woman I was because I only saw my failures. I had only saw the things that weren't working out, the people who didn't show up, the support that I didn't feel, the doors that weren't opening, the clients that weren't coming. And I was so defeated because I had allowed outside noise to dictate how I felt about myself and my business. And when I had that conversation with her, I'll never forget. I think it was, I don't know, let's say October 2018, December 2018, I had written my first book, um, Finding the Missing Part of Me, a 31-day journal to self-discovery. And I published it and launched it. Sorry, I launched it in January 2019. And I am so glad that God placed destiny helpers along the way in my journey for encouragement, to support me, to encourage me, to guide me, for me to get out of my own way, because I was in my own way to the point of where I was going to close it down. And I'll be honest, there was another time in this journey 2 years ago where I was going to also shut my business down. But there were destiny helpers along the way who I was able to hear outside of myself to get that encouragement. And January 2019, I launched my book, my journal. And then November 2019, I went into my business full time. So from January to September when I turned in my resignation letter, October. So 9 months, I put the pedal to the metal and I grinded and I applied myself and I got out of my own way. I moved out of fear and I walked into this calling, this vision that God had given me, and my practice grew. I got a new location. I became so busy to where I was making a significant amount of money, and it was time for me to start thinking of next steps. Now, a lot of stuff was happening in my 9 to 5, which pushed me out faster than what I probably would have done myself. But I think it was all God's timing. It was so stressful at my job, and I resigned. And I never looked back. And at the time, my old boss said basically my practice would be a failure. She was a hater to say the least. And she told me that, to go work at a grocery chain store. And funny enough, that didn't discourage me. It actually fueled me even more. And so once I left, never went back. And thank God that I have never had to. And so I say all that to say is that sometimes you will have to get out of your own way. Sometimes you will have to do the uncomfortable things. Sometimes you will have to not ask for permission and just do it. Not wait for someone to validate you, not waiting for someone to support you or applaud you, to do it anyways. Because if God called you to do it, you don't need anybody else. And whatever you need, He will supply it. And so I didn't know at the time, but He was supplying encouragement and support from outside people that I would have never thought would support me in that way, but they did. The other thing that came up in my journey as well is comparing yourself to others. So stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 25. Comparison is the biggest thief of joy. I also experienced that in my journey. I'll never forget. I had just left my full-time job. And so in November, same month, I went to do a travel social work job. And at the time, it was a whole bunch of social workers from my area, a lot of colleagues that I had looked up to and admired. And they were talking about their practices. And, some of them had left their 9 to 5 and they were working full time in their business. And I just sat there and felt so discouraged because I was like, yeah, I just took this leap of faith and I feel lost. I don't know what I'm doing. And I had compared myself to their journey. And then when I got back home from that work assignment, I realized that my journey is not their journey. They're on chapter, let's say 15. I'm on chapter 1. Literally, not even a month had went by since I was full-time in my practice. And I was watching their highlight reel. It wasn't until we started talking more and more and realizing that, oh, wait, their experience is not all butterflies and roses like I thought it was. So sometimes comparison will cause you to diminish your journey, and it'll cause you to compare yourself to where you think that you're so behind. And the reality is that there is room for your voice, there's room for your story, there's room for your assignment. Someone needs to hear it no matter where you are in your journey. And no one is you. No one is like you. No one will be you. You can have, I always say this example, there's 4 fast food places on the same street: McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, all sometimes right across from each other. But no one does Wendy's like Wendy's. No one does McDonald's fries like McDonald's, right? And so there is a difference. So stop comparing yourself to others. Sometimes there's a cost to waiting. You're waiting for this. You're waiting for that. Every day you delay, someone who needed to hear your story never hears it. Someone who needed your business never finds it. Someone who needed your encouragement keeps struggling. Someone who needed your leadership never experiences it. Your calling isn't about just you, it's connected to people. Your purpose is connected to people. And when we refuse to move out of fear or whatever else, other people stay waiting too. And there is a cost. And so, as a believer, we know that we weren't just put on this earth for ourselves, right? We know there's a purpose, there's a calling that we have. And typically, it's in service of others. And so, thinking of that, who is connected to what you're supposed to be doing? How are you showing up in the world? Are you doing the thing that God called you to do? And if you're not, why? Right? Questioning yourself why you're not. So, the title of this episode is about stop auditioning, right? So, what does auditioning look like? Why did I title it that? So, maybe you're wondering, what does auditioning actually look like when it comes to your calling? Well, it looks like shrinking in rooms. It looks like you're shrinking when you should be speaking up. It looks like everyone else's opinions matter and yours don't, especially when it comes to your own life. It's you over explaining yourself because you're trying to convince people who you never were, or having people, you're over explaining to people who don't understand your purpose, right? And so it looks like one day, I'll do it one day, or I'll do it tomorrow, next week, 10 years from now. And it's allowing fear to stop you from taking steps forward. So, thinking about that, let me tell you something. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is deciding your purpose is greater than your fear. I do it scared all the time. I recently just launched another um, leg of my practice doing medication management. And it's not even been a month yet since the nurse practitioner has started seeing clients. And I'm terrified. Anything you can think of, I think it. But I had planned to do this a year ago. And I had pushed it back and I pushed it back and I pushed it back. And I said, you know what? This is something that I know God has called me to do because there is a need that we need to serve in our community and for our clients. And I stepped outside of that fear and did it. Fear is present, but my purpose and calling is more pressing than the fear that I have because I know there are people that are connected to me being obedient to what God asked me to do. And so I encourage you, courage is not the absence of fear, but courage is deciding that your purpose is greater than your fear. What are you not doing because you're scared? Do it scared. Do it when you don't have all the answers because we never do. What if I fail? Well, sis, I'm here to tell you that you probably will. And you actually only fail when you don't get back up. We all fall, but dust yourself off and you get back up. I had a business doing subscription boxes. I loved it. It was a self-care box every quarter for women with different self-care items in the box. And I don't even think it lasted a year. And to me, I see that as a failure, a business that failed. There were so many different things that I tried. So many. I mean, I can go on and on about the different things that I've tried that just didn't work. They were a failure. But it wasn't something that I was supposed to be doing. There are things that I do try and I have tried in my business that didn't work out. That's okay. I think I'm at a place right now that I trust that whatever the path is for me, it will be. And so the question is, what if I fail? What if you don't? What if the opportunity changes your life? What if your obedience inspires someone else to try or do it? What if God is waiting for the first step before he reveals the next one, which typically is my story? I'm like, I don't know what's next, but I'm trusting. Failure, to be honest, is not the greatest tragedy. Living beneath your potential is. I tell people often, there are so many regrets that live at a graveyard. And that's one of my biggest fears, is having regret. Oh, I should have did this. Oh, I should have did that. And I didn't do it because of fear. So I want to challenge you today. Write down one thing you've been putting off because you don't feel ready. Then ask yourself, is this wisdom or is this fear disguised as preparation? And then take one small step this week, not a month, not a year. Send that email, register for that class, start that business, write that book, apply for that position, write the first page, pick up your phone and record that video to post on social media, launch the podcast, trust God, audition. You simply need to be obedient. Because here's what I've learned in my own journey: the world doesn't need another perfect woman. I'm not perfect by far. The world needs a woman who is willing to say yes to God, even when she's still growing. That's me. So I want you all to challenge yourself, to commit to yourself, to do that thing scared, put one foot in front of the other, and just do it, like Nike says. So thank you for joining today's episode of the Becoming Her podcast. I pray that today's conversation spoke to you. And if it did, share it with another woman who needs to hear it, who has especially been waiting for the permission to step into her purpose. When, sis, you don't need permission. God said it, do it. Subscribe to our podcast, leave a review, connect with us on social media. I would love to hear what resonated with you this week. What step are you committing to take this week? What step are you committing to walk closer into your destiny, into your purpose? Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, keep trusting, keep growing, keep healing, keep becoming, and remember, you were never called to audition for your purpose. You were called to walk in it, sis. I will see you next episode. Thank you for tuning in.